What's good?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm gonna be reacting to what really happens in your last 24 hours on death row. I don't know why I always watch scary stuff before bed. I don't even know if it's gonna be scary or not, but I don't know why I always watch scary stuff before bed. I'm not gonna hold you guys too long. Let's get started with the video.
Capital punishment, or the act of killing someone in the name of justice for a crime they have committed, is an incredibly controversial and contentious topic. And while many people oppose or support it, it's still a part of the criminal justice system in more countries than it isn't. Nations like the United States have employed capital punishment for serious crimes since its inception, but there are states that no longer do it. Other countries have little to no problem killing off its citizens when they cross the line, and while each country is different, there are some that follow a strict series of protocols for the condemned's last day on Earth. Since it's a formal process that's well documented, the United States' use of capital punishment is the easiest to follow. There are numerous methods of execution, and for this video, the most common, lethal injection, will be featured. With all that in mind, I'm Will for What Culture,
Lethal
and let's take a look at
injection.
what really happens in your last 24 hours on death row. 10. The movement to the Death Watch area. When a person reaches their final day on Earth while on death row, they are separated from their usual cell and taken to a new one called the Death Watch area. Sounds a bit more terrifying than it maybe really is, as in North Carolina, it's very similar to a normal prison cell. There are 4 cells that sit side by side but are open to a day room where the prisoner can sit and watch television and take a shower for up to 15 minutes. The prisoner's entire day is spent in the Death Watch area cell, and there is a sergeant.
Oh my god, I wonder what that feel like.
Just outside the cell for the full 24 hours. This isn't actually to prevent escape, but to make sure the prisoner won't take their own life before the state has the chance to do it.
I probably would be that person.
9. The last meal. In movies
To try to take my own life.
the prisoner is often given the option of a last meal. This is usually depicted as whatever the condemned wishes, that is, within reason. If they want steak and potatoes, that's no problem. Unfortunately, reality and Hollywood don't often get along where executions are concerned, and the last meal has been glorified in the media as something special. It's really nothing of the sort, and in most prisons around the country, a last meal is going to be just that, and nothing special. Most prisons offer a maximum allowance for what a prisoner can get, so a filet mignon is pretty much off the table. In some states, that limit might be around $15 or $20, so it's not going to get the prisoner much of anything particularly amazing. In a lot of prisoners, the prisoner doesn't have much choice at all. They will get to choose whether they want what was already on the menu for the prison that day. If that's mac and cheese, well, that's what the last meal is going to be. 8.
What?
Visitors. The last 24 hours a condemned prisoner gets while on death row is spread about to allow for visitation of all manner of people. The prisoner's family members, friends, and even people from the media can come to speak with the prisoner before they are executed. In most prisons, the visitation is non-contact, which means they are separated by glass, but this isn't always the case, as it depends on the prison and the state's rules regarding visitation. In some states, there are limited and supervised contact visits, but they are closely monitored to ensure everyone's safety and security. Depending on a prison's rules, there is often a limited amount of time for visitation, but it can be taken up by a single visitor or any number who come to see the prisoner in their last moments. Prisoners also aren't required to meet with anyone during this time, so if they choose to be left alone for their final 24 hours, they will get that. 7. The warden and
being
chaplain
alone?
arrive. At a specified time, the warden will arrive with the prison chaplain. When this happens, the two are there to stay, and they are often required to remain within the company of the condemned until the execution is carried out. In terms of religious accommodation, the prison chaplain will accommodate whichever religious preferences the condemned have if they are able to. It isn't uncommon for a chaplain of another faith to arrive, and the condemned can sometimes have their personal spiritual advisor step into this role. In most prisons, they will remain in the condemned room of the Death Watch area, or sit in the cell with the condemned. This is usually depicted in films, and the warden and chaplain are often shown sitting with the condemned for their last moments in the Death Watch area cell. 6. Final preparations are made. Depending on the prison where the execution is taking place, a prisoner might be given a brand new set of clothes to wear for their final moments. This is done in most prisons, but it isn't necessarily done or requested. There is one wardrobe change, however, that everyone has to do to prepare for the execution. Every condemned prisoner is fitted with a diaper, and there's a common sense reason for doing so. When a person dies,
A
they
diaper?
lose all muscle control, which means the sphincters that hold back urine and excrement are released, and our bladder and bowels are voided. Granted, there has to be something in the tank for this to happen, but it is a precautionary measure to ensure the dignity of the condemned and the easy cleaning of their remains. It is also, and understandably possible, that the prisoner might wet themselves, given the situation, and the diaper also helps to maintain a sense of dignity through that, should it happen. 5. Movement to the execution chamber. When the time comes, the visitors will have gone, and the prisoner will be moved from the death watch area to the execution chamber. This is usually done after the prisoner is read.
I wonder how that
rites,
feel.
confessed, or done whatever spiritual requirements
But not
their
for real.
faith allows. If you've seen or read The Green Mile, you might think that someone calls out, "Dead man walking," as the prisoner is escorted from the death watch area to the execution chamber. But this is a Hollywood fantasy. Granted, there may have been guards who did this sort of thing in the past, but thankfully regulations these days ensure no such distasteful, cruel treatment. The prisoner is shackled and taken, often arm in arm by at least 2 guards, to the execution chamber, which is usually a small room containing a special bed, upon which the prisoner will be strapped for the next step in the process. At this point in time, the prisoner is completely restrained and unable to do much more than move their head. This is done both for their safety and for the safety of the people who must be in the room with them, which includes the chaplain, warden, and medical professional. 4. The witnesses arrive. The next step in the process involves the arrival of witnesses. At one point in history, executions were carried out in public, but the United States gave up this practice in 1936, when a prisoner was hanged publicly in Kentucky. This is a practice of the past, but in modern executions, witnesses remain a big factor, but there are strict limitations on who can attend. Every state has laws describing exactly who can come and witness an execution, but they are generally limited to the following: relatives of the victim or victims, relatives of the prisoner, the prison warden, medical personnel required for the execution itself, spiritual advisors or the prison chaplain, prison guards, an official group of, quote, reputable citizens, an official group of state-selected representatives, and media personnel covering the execution. Depending on the prison, witnesses may arrive as soon as 20 minutes prior to the execution or a few hours before it's scheduled. Everyone is escorted into the witness room, which is adjacent to the execution chamber. Most prisons have either a one-way mirror or a see-through glass in place, which separates the two. Number 3. The heart monitor and IV are in place. The prisoner is secured to the bed and needs to be prepared for the actual injection of lethal chemicals. A health professional ensures that the patient is fitted with a heart monitor, which is used to confirm the execution's success. You may not know that lethal injections aren't done by simply taking a syringe filled with poison and injecting it into a person's throat. It's done as humanely as possible and without making the healthcare professional responsible for the actual injection, as it would violate their Hippocratic oath. 2 intravenous tubes are inserted, with one going into each arm. The healthcare professional makes sure the IV is inserted properly and with as little pain as possible. They swab the area with alcohol, and while that may seem unnecessary considering what's about to happen, not doing so would be counter to a health worker's normal practice. The tubes run through the wall to an anteroom, where the executioner is positioned. The movies often put the device in the room with the condemned, but this is, understandably, not how it's done in reality. Each tube leads to a different set of chemicals, each of which have their own purpose. 2. Final words. Once everything has been prepared and the condemned has been hooked up to the IV, they are usually turned to face the witnesses. Now, this could be done through a one-way mirror, making it impossible for the prisoner to see the witnesses, but in most states they are able to see the people viewing the execution. At this time, they are given the option to make a final statement. They can do this verbally, they can read something they previously wrote, they can have someone else read their words, or they can choose to say nothing. It is up to them. Whatever the final words are, they are recorded and released to the media, which has the option to report them if they so desire. In some situations, the prisoner's final words may be responded to by a witness, but this isn't the norm. Witnesses are often left to hear the final words without response, but it does depend on a number of factors, including the prison's rules and the situation at hand. 1. The button is pushed. A prisoner's final 24 hours ends with the pushing of a button. The person designated to be the executioner is responsible for doing so, and in many states there are 2 executioners on hand to do the job. Each one pushes their respective buttons, but neither knows which one delivered the fatal chemicals. This is more for the executioner than for anyone else, and it isn't always done in every prison. When the button has been pushed, a machine delivers a series of chemicals, one after the other. The chemicals used can vary between states, but generally they are as follows. The first drug is anesthetic, which is often sodium thiopental. This puts the patient into a deep sleep. If you've ever undergone surgery, this is pretty much that. This is followed by a paralyzing agent, which is typically pancuronium bromide. This drug is a muscle relaxant, and its primary effect is to paralyze the diaphragm and the lungs, ceasing all breathing. The final drug is a toxic agent, though it's not used in all states. It's usually a lethal dose of potassium chloride, and its job is to stop the electrical signals that make the heart function, leading to cardiac arrest. Once the prisoner's heart stops, and this is confirmed by a physician, the 24 hours come to an end, and the prisoner is declared to have been successfully executed. And so, the final 24 hours of a prisoner on death row draws to a close. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so I don't know how to feel about this. It's like, it's in the middle. It's like I feel bad because they're being executed, but at the same time, you can't feel bad because it's a reason why they're there. It's a reason why, they're in that place anyway. So it's like I don't really feel bad, but I do feel bad for the innocent. Someone was executed that was later found innocent, and it was very sad. But yeah, that concludes this video. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment. Let me know what you want to see from me next. Make sure to follow all my socials. Links in a bio. Al Capone gone.